We often hear people say that things aren't how they used to be. And nowhere is this more apparent as in communities. Love thy neighbour has been replaced by thou shalt absolutely covet thy neighbour's ass, followed by sleeping with her, then stealing her kid's Xbox. While there are fewer and fewer cases of community togetherness, all too often instead what we find is apathy, indifference, and people keeping to themselves. It's a real shame, but perhaps more to do with an increase in unprovoked violence than necessarily people becoming less friendly. But what really grates is when you do find one of these pockets of neighbourhood camaraderie, but it is spoilt by one bad apple. But what happens when that community is the epicenter of a violent crime? Fingers are pointed, but unlike cases where assumptions are made, here the fingers absolutely point in the right direction. But here the water is muddied by intent, or maybe even self-defense. I'll tell you what happened, and then you can decide for yourselves. This is the death of a GK Owens, and this is Murder of Crows. We're heading to Florida for this episode, and to a deprived neighbourhood that nonetheless fostered positive relationships. In Ocala, we find an apartment complex with a large area of grass that the neighbourhood children would get together to play on. In the 21st century, this throwback to simpler times is refreshing and perhaps indicates shoots of recovery for a sense of community. One of the community members enjoying this sense of belonging to something was a GK Owens, who found the community a welcoming home for her and her 4 children. But this silver lining was blighted by a dark cloud. And that cloud was a 58-year-old member of the neighbourhood, whose name was Susan Lawrence. I don't like to stereotype or make assumptions, But from my research, this woman was absolutely a cantankerous, whiny harridan. But that's just my two penneth, just my opinion. Anyway, this woman was considered something of a fly in the otherwise pleasant community ointment. She would berate all the children who played on the grassy area, claiming that at least part of the grassy area was hers, and that the children were generally too noisy. She seemed to have a particular issue with the Owens children, that is, the children of A.J. Owens. Perhaps due to their group mentality giving them extra confidence to challenge this killjoy. But it was reported that Lawrence, who was a white woman, may have had racist undertones to her verbal altercations with the African American Owens children. According to Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods, there were about half a dozen calls concerning an ongoing neighborhood feud that deputies had responded to since January of 2021 that involved just these parties. A neighbor living across from Ms. Lawrence stated that the woman was angry all the time due to the Owens children playing outside, and that Lawrence would say nasty things to them. Police spoke to the Owens children along with neighbors who overheard Lawrence arguing with the children. And they reported that during the argument, Lawrence threw a roller skate at the children, hitting one of them in the leg, and also swung an umbrella at another one of them. Easy there, Mary Poppins. After the children told their mother about the incident, Owens, quite understandably, went to Susan Lawrence's home to have it out with her and try and work out what's going on here. She was with her 10-year-old son when she knocked on Susan Lawrence's door. And apropos of nothing, AJ was shot through the closed door. Attorneys who would later represent Owen's family said that Lawrence used racial slurs directed at the children. Now, Susan Lawrence claimed that she was acting in self-defense and claimed that A.J. Owens was trying to break down her door. She also claimed that in the past, Owens had tried to attack her. A neighbor from across the street heard Owen's son yelling, and this is absolutely heartbreaking. "They shot my mama. They shot my mama. And this neighbour then ran over to start giving CPR. Now, Susan Lawrence called 911 twice. The first was earlier on, and it was a trespassing call after she had confronted the children, probably trying to get out ahead of everything that had happened. And the second was after Lawrence had shot A.J. Owens.
I just saw the emergency.
Oh my God, this lady just tried to break down my door. I shot through the door. Oh my God.
Okay, repeat that address for me to make sure I have it correct. Okay, what is your name? Okay, take a deep breath for me. Calm down.
Oh my God.
You said someone tried to break down your door, is that correct?
Yes, yes, the woman was screaming and yelling and she was trying to break down my door.
Okay, it was a female?
Yes. I didn't know what to do. I grabbed my gun and I shot at the door. And I thought she was going to kill me. Oh my God.
Okay, you said you shot at the door, is that correct?
Yes, I shot at the door because she wouldn't stop. I told her to get away and she wouldn't. It was begging. She's begging.
Okay, where's your gun now?
It's in my bedroom. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking. This is the woman who attacked me.
Okay, do you still see the subject?
I don't know where she is. I'm still in my house. I didn't open my door to her.
Is it just only you in the home?
Yes, it's just me.
Okay, I just need you to lock all your doors and windows, okay?
I have.
Okay, I'm going to stay on the line until the deputies get there.
Okay. My son said they were going to come and kill me.
And did you know her?
Yes, she's come after me several times because of her children. Her children keep trespassing over here. They're bothering me and bothering me. They won't stop.
Is she a neighbor?
Yes.
You're not under arrest. You're being detained. Come over here. 64th Marion, females detained. I need medics. 1018. Hey, who all was out here when it happened? Out here when it happened, okay?
I left my iPad over there because we were playing games, and I went to go get it. I said, "Give me my iPad," because she had it. She dropped it, tried to throw the skates at me, and and then I got my brother. He said, "Come hit me with the skates," and then
All right, bud. Give me a minute. Just hang out by my car, okay?
Hey, y'all seen it? Y'all understand it? Y'all experienced it, right? Okay. Y'all love me? Okay. Y'all love Mom? All right. Well, I got some bad news to tell you. Mom is not coming back anymore. Come. No. Come here. Come over here. Listen to me. No, I know. Okay. It's okay. I know. Okay. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I am sorry. I'm so sorry.
you can't go home.
You can. Okay. It's alright. You guys are gonna be okay. It's alright. You guys are alright. Okay.
Deputies were already responding to the first 911 call when the second call came in. The deputies found AJ Owens laying in the grass, suffering from a gunshot wound, and AJ Owens would later be pronounced dead at the hospital. Lawrence told detectives in a videotaped interview that she feared for her life as Owens yelled and pounded on the door, with the lady saying, "I thought I was in imminent danger."
I just remember being terrified that she was banging and screaming, and I just remember hearing her say, "I'm going to kill you." I was in fear for my life. I mean, honest to God, I just feared that she was going to come through that door. I'm sorry, that's how I felt. I can't change the way I felt. I mean, it was sheer terror on my part. I mean, honest to God, I was shaking.
Now, following this horrid incident, it took some time for the authorities to decide if they were even going to arrest the curmudgeonly woman, let alone which charges to press against her. But ultimately, the case would progress to court in a trial that would split public opinion, though that opinion was largely in favour of the young single mother. But the major delays were due to Florida's Stand Your Ground laws and whether they applied in this case. During trial, Lawrence's interview with the police, in which she told authorities that she was in fear for her life, was played for the jury. She said she was scared and wanted Owens to go away. Lawrence went on to say, "I was never intending to kill. I was shaking. I was just so distraught at that point in time. I felt like I was in mortal danger." Owens was not armed, and the door to Lawrence's apartment was locked. Lawrence denied throwing things at the Owens children and described in the interview feeling harassed by the children during her time living in her home. Her defense attorney, Morris Carranza, told jurors in his opening statement that Susan Lawrence felt in her core that she had no choice but to shoot.
You're going to hear the defendant say that Audrika was at the door, and the defendant believed that Audrika was going to break down that door and kill her. But you're also going to hear the defendant say that Audrika was at the door that evening, saying, "I want to speak to you because I don't like the way you're talking to my sons." At the end of this case, you're going to hear that the defendant, Susan Lawrence, knowing the police were coming, was in her apartment with the door locked and shot through that locked front door and killed Audrika Owens, who was unarmed. We're going to present the evidence to you in this case, and after the evidence is presented, we are going to come back to you and ask that you find the defendant guilty of manslaughter by use of fire. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carranza, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir. May it please the court.
Let me know when you need the overhead.
We're ready, Your Honor.
I've got it on the defense laptop.
Good morning. Allow your minds to wander back in time to June 2nd of 2022 in the Quill Run area of Ocala, 1662 Southwest 107th Lane, apartment number 3. The apartment where Susan Lawrence lived. She had just gone through hell. Adjika Owens, her neighbor, had come to her door and pounded that door violently for minutes. And Susan shot through that door. And what the evidence will show is that she shot through that door for self-defense. And she was terrified that A.J. Owens was going to break down that door and pulverize her. The evidence will show that Susan, at the time, was almost 59 years old, living alone in this tiny little apartment, 800 square feet. There was only one door that you could leave from. And in front of that door was A.J. Owens. An individual that was tall, that was 24 years her junior, and that outweighed her by 80 pounds. You will hear that Susan Lawrence was 59 years old, but had a multitude of medical infirmities. So physically, she was a lot older than 59 years old. And it was at this point, after she went through this hell, she called 911.
Florida law gives some protection for the use of deadly force if a person reasonably believes such force is necessary because their life is in imminent danger. These are often called stand your ground laws and have led to some controversial cases. During the trial, Susan Loring's previous actions were held up as an indication of her character, while police also described why there was a delay in arresting the woman, as I touched on earlier with the stand your ground laws. Lawrence wasn't initially arrested following the shooting, which prompted something of a public outcry. But the sheriff's office at the time said that officials were investigating whether the stand your ground law applied in this case. But she was arrested on June the 6th of 2023. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods said that investigators gathered information from witness interviews and found that her actions were not justifiable under the law, where he referred to it as simply a killing. The prosecutor's office said it considered a second-degree murder charge, but did not feel there was enough evidence to prove intent beyond a reasonable doubt. Multiple neighbors reported that the previous year they recalled times where Lawrence had recorded their children, taunted the children with slurs, called the police and waved guns at them. Phyllis Wills lived in the neighborhood for 15 years and described Susan Lawrence as having a problem with children being children. She noted that many of the neighbors had issues with Lawrence. Lawrence would yell curse words at the children, as well as using the N-word slur, and also a pejorative for people with intellectual disabilities. In terms of specific incidents, Will said she's gotten into her truck and blasted the radio as loud as she could to agitate the kids. And she went on to say she's also gotten into her truck and laid on the horn for long periods of time to agitate them as well. She sounds like a real fucking treat.
This case basically requires you as a jury to answer one question. Was it reasonable to shoot through a closed, locked, deadbolted metal door at some... The evidence in this case that you've heard for the past several days has proven beyond any reasonable doubt that the defendant's actions were not reasonable that night. The judge just read the law to you that's applicable to this case, and it is that law that guides your decision in this case. It is that law that you must follow. It is that law that we as a society have agreed to live by, and you, by taking your oath as a juror, have agreed to follow. And that's the law that should guide your entire analysis in this case. As you heard, the defendant is charged with one count of manslaughter. And in order to prove manslaughter, the state has to prove the following two elements beyond a reasonable doubt. Number one, Adjika Owens is dead. That is not in dispute. That was agreed by the parties. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. That's been proven beyond any doubt. Two, the state has to prove either that Susan Lawrence intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Adjika Owens, or B, the death of Adjika Owens was caused by the culpable negligence of Susan Lawrence. The state only has to prove A or B, but the evidence in this case has proven beyond any reasonable doubt both of those. Let's talk about A first. That the defendant intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Adjika Owens. There is no question in this case that the defendant was the one that fired the gun that shot and killed Ms. Owens. She was the only one in the apartment that night. You heard crime scene investigator Catherine Medina, who processed the inside of her apartment, went into that bedroom and found that .380 Remington firearm in the trash can beneath that .22 Ruger firearm. Catherine Medina also found the spent shell casing that was found on the kitchen counter. Dr. Norford, the medical examiner, removed the projectile from Ms. Owens' body. And you heard from Florida Department of Law Enforcement analyst Jamie Williamson, who said she took the firearm that was found in the defendant's residence, compared it to the spent shell casing found in the kitchen, and determined that that casing was fired from the defendant's gun. She also examined that projectile recovered from Ms. Owens' body and compared it to the .380 Remington firearm, the defendant's, and found that the projectile in Ms. Owens' body was fired by the defendant's gun. Finally, the defendant admitted during her interview that she was the one that fired that gun. She also admitted that the act of pulling that trigger and firing that gun wasn't intentional. It wasn't an accidental situation. It wasn't a situation where she slipped and fell and the gun accidentally went off and shot through the door and struck Ms. Owens. That's not what we have here. She intentionally fired it. There's no doubt the defendant intentionally committed an act which caused the death of Adjika Owens. And we also know
it tells us that Susan Lawrence has entered a plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe that she is innocent. So we start there. We start with the fact that she's innocent, and where does it go? Where does that presumption go? It stays with the defendant as to each material allegation in the information through each state of the trial. unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. That's pretty powerful language for the protection of our liberties. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crime with which the defendant is charged was committed, and the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. We talked about this term reasonable doubt in jury selection. I'm not going to read the whole definition to you again. The judge gave it to you again. And it's very important. And what is reasonable doubt? For someone to leave that interview and go and research, like, man, I wonder what the law really says about this. Is that reasonable? Absolutely. The state argues that Ms. Lawrence knew that law enforcement was on the way, but we know it took law enforcement almost 15 minutes to get there. 8:54 is when she called 911. First officer didn't respond on scene until I believe it was 9:08. A lot can happen in 15 minutes, members of the jury, when you are in fear for your life. A lot. One of the last times the police came out, when Susan Lawrence told them that she had been battered, they didn't even ask Adjika Owens her name. The state says it's only 2.5 minutes. Only 2.5 minutes have went by. But Dr. Bedard, he talked to us about that perception and how that can feel like a very, very long time. And the state introduced some videos that Susan Lawrence had taken earlier in the day, and they had introduced this umbrella, and they introduced these skates. Even Mr. Buxman in his closing admitted, like, none of that even really matters. But they took the time, they introduced those things. Why did they do that? Do these skates, the umbrella, these videos, prove to you in any way that Susan Lawrence wasn't reasonably afraid? Because remember, they have the burden to prove she wasn't acting in self-defense.
On August the 16th of this year, 2024, Susan Lawrence was found guilty of manslaughter by an all-white 6-person jury after just 2 hours of deliberation.
Breaking news. We have a verdict in Florida versus Susan Lorenz. This is the lady who is accused of shooting through her closed door and killing the mother of 4 on the other side of that door, charged in this case with murder. Let's go back inside the courtroom to hear the verdict.
It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. Can you please hand the verdict to the bailiff, please?
Thank you.
I'm going to have the clerk read the verdict.
Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally used a firearm? Yes. So say we all, dated the 16th day of August, 2024.
Does either side wish the jurors to be polled?
Yes, sir. Verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number 5, is this your verdict? Yes. Juror number 6, is this your verdict?
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you can go back to the jury room, please wait there and I'll discharge you in a few moments, okay? Here we go. Also, here's the last one. Oh wait, I don't think I dated that. I'll do that one back. Ms. Lawrence, the jury has found that you're guilty of manslaughter with a firearm, you're going to be adjudicated guilty of that offense. I assume that sentencing will be at a later date. Is that correct?
That's correct, Judge.
Are you requesting a pre-sentence investigation?
Yes, sir.
What I'm going to do is have the Department of Corrections prepare a pre-sentence investigation. I'll continue this case. I'll put it all the way to the November docket, although I expect us to be sentenced long before that. I'm just putting us far enough away to get everything done. So when we get the PSI done.
The prosecution, the verdict of the guilty. I find some peace with that verdict. I feel that although my daughter is gone forever, the children's mom is gone forever, but we've achieved some justice for Ajika. My heart is a little lighter, and we're now on the path of true healing. I'd like to thank all of the friends, family, media, community, the nation who stood beside us and walked this journey with us. My heart goes out to families who have lost loved ones to violence, and to those who have not found justice as we did. Again, I thank you. Please continue to keep the family and especially Ajika's 4 children in your prayers. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for now. Thank you.
How are the children doing?
The children are coping the best that they can. Certainly the loss of their mom lingers every single day. They are seeking counseling. And so we ask everyone to keep keep the children in your prayers, because right now they need the whole community to be behind them. We were able to speak to the prosecutors briefly. We shared our thank yous with them, and we were able to exchange pleasantries. But just like I've said before, and the state's attorney's office agrees, we still need to sentence Susan Lawrence.
You said you've achieved some justice, but it's still not over. What is the next step for this?
The next step is the sentencing part.
Ms. Campbell, we noticed how visibly shaken you were throughout the trial. If you had an opportunity to say something to Susan right now, what would you tell her?
No words for Susan Lawrence.
What does this verdict signal to you?
It's a good step in the right direction. And that right direction was first getting Susan convicted. The jury did their job today. Now it's up to Judge Hodges to do his job in handing down the best sentence he can, which is the maximum penalty. Thank you.
In the aftermath of the shooting, many family members of Owens, as well as many supporters of gun control, called for a re-evaluation of the Stand Your Ground rules, along with potential clarification of that rule. A law professor at William and Mary Law School indicated when asked that she was concerned that there was a widespread misunderstanding of the rule and that it had turned into a shoot first, think later belief by some people. The GoFundMe page that was set up by the Owens family after the shooting indicated that they had partnered with national advocacy groups to promote change of the Stand Your Ground laws. And that was the harrowing case of a woman who was shot for standing up for her children. It turned a microscope onto the controversial Stand Your Ground laws that had, for a time, seemingly given people carte blanche to shoot, safe in the knowledge that they had a viable card to play in any subsequent investigation. In a statement, A.J. Owens' mother, Pamela Diaz, stated that the child standing next to A.J. when she died, her own 10-year-old son, was consumed with grief and guilt that he was unable to successfully perform CPR on his own mother. According to Diaz, the child said to her, "Grandma, Grandma, I couldn't save her." The executive director of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, great cause, crap name, told reporters that she was absolutely heartbroken over the shooting and that it was a senseless act in result of lax gun laws and the culture of shoot first. How many more people have to die in this senseless war against gun violence? But the call to ban all guns has come too late for the US, since that particular dam has long burst, and it would be like trying to get a mattress back into its tubular packaging, or indeed, as Samson will attest to, like trying to herd cats. In a country where the Second Amendment gives the right to bear arms, the Founding Fathers and those that followed them and crafted this document and its amendments are now reaping what they sowed. And gun violence is here to stay in the United States. I'm not criticizing the Constitution as such. More, I'm criticizing the, pardon the pun, weaponizing it by the gun trade, and in particular the National Rifle Association and other political lobbyists who seek to protect the lucrative arms trade.
When, in God's name, are we going to stand up to the gun lobby?
This will continue to happen when you continue to have a governor who will not stand up for the people of Texas. His only interest is the gun lobby.
my Republican colleagues, imagine if it happened to you. Imagine if this was your kid or your grandkid. How would you feel? Could you ever forgive yourself for not supporting a simple law that would make these mass shootings less likely? Please, 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 damn it, put yourself in the shoes of these parents for once. Maybe that thought, putting yourself in the shoes of these parents instead of in the arms of the NRA, might let you wriggle free from the vice-like grip of the NRA.
Most governing in America happens at the local and state level. And over the past 10 years, we have seen hundreds of pieces of common sense gun legislation that have passed in cities and states across America. Now, we live in a country that, of course, has porous borders. So we have to do a better job of ensuring that our elected officials have the moral courage to do what's right and to pass legislation at the federal level. This is not a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. This is a uniquely American issue.
All I can say is that the Second Amendment is part of our Constitution, and banning a particular set of guns would be, if Democrats want to impose the assault weapons ban again, bring it up, let's vote.
There is no easy answer, since for every good-natured advocate of peace and an end to gun violence, there will be at least one cockwomble with an AK ready to take advantage of their perceived weakness. But here ends one of many, many cases where a gun was introduced into an altercation with rather predictable results. But in the case of this story, which shines a light on a much more extensive and wider issue, this video is dedicated to Ajika A.J. Owens, who leaves a gaping void in the lives of her 4 children, who have to grow up without her. She was clearly a strong advocate for the rights of her children. And as such, that guiding rudder will always be missed. I send love to the family and friends of this very loving mother. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. Please subscribe and click the bell if you haven't yet to make sure that you get updated on my twice weekly uploads. It would mean an awful lot to me, and it would really help me out. But with that said, I'm Steve, this Fussy McFusspot is Samson, and we will see you when we see you.
say that